When I think of must-have lighting accessories, some of the obvious ones come to mind. A big, bright softbox, a Fresnel, great light stands, and battery-powered lights. But there's one lighting accessory that I never thought that I really needed until I actually tried it out. And today, that's what I want to talk about, a lighting accessory I didn't know I needed until I did. So recently, Zhiyun announced the brand new X100 RGB light. And I have a whole video that's a first look on this light and why I love it so much and love the upgrades they made to this light. But even more exciting than the X100 RGB is the accessory that Zhiyun announced alongside the X100, the Zhiyun Spotlight attachment. And it is the Spotlight that is one of the lighting accessories that I've always known have existed, but have never really thought I needed myself until I actually tried them out. So what is a spotlight attachment? Well, it is, as the name implies, a spotlight that you connect to the front of a light to create a spotlight effect. And not only can it create a spotlight effect, but it also has sort of these internal barn doors that allow you to cut the light and therefore focus it on a very specific thing. For example, this little gobo right here. And this can be really useful in a variety of situations when you just want a slash of light in the background or across someone's clothes in a fiction film or even in a documentary interview. Most spotlights, this one included, also have gobos, which are little slides that you can stick inside of your spotlight to create some effect with your light. So this one right here is a window pane that you can just slide in and create a window pane effect through the light. And then you focus it based on the type of harshness you want and hard edges you want on the light itself. So when would you use a spotlight attachment? Well, if you've watched YouTube, then you've probably seen a spotlight attachment being used as a backdrop. You might think it's light coming through a window or a different type of pattern, but actually it's a spotlight with a gobo inside of it. Right now, we just have a spotlight lighting up my background in order to make me pop off the background a little more, but also brighten the background a little bit. So most spotlights will have a gobo collection, which are just slides that go into this holder that you just slide into the spotlight itself, and then it creates a pattern on the back wall. And then you can focus your light here to create a harder line on your shadows or a softer line on your shadows. Let's do hard line so it's easier to see the patterns that we're putting in there. So that's one of the first great ways you can use a spotlight attachment, is by creating a lot of really interesting effects in the background just to give the background a little more visual interest, especially in something like this where you're talking to camera in a YouTube studio setup. And that brings me to the next use case, which is really great for narrative filmmakers. Say you are shooting in a house, but you want to actually control all of the light, but you want that beam of light coming in through a window or something like that. Now, you can't always rely on the sun, and of course the sun moves over the course of the day, and so that will change your lighting even if it's great for a small period of time. So you can use the gobos or the slides inside of the spotlight attachment to mimic sunlight coming through a window pane or window blinds, and then it'll just stay like that for the entire shoot. So it's really a great way to control and mimic sunlight. Another great way to use a spotlight attachment without the gobos or slides is just to create a really interesting slash of light. And that could, again, mimic sunlight coming through a window, but also just create a visual interest in something like a documentary interview. And you'll see this a lot in sort of that Netflix style interviews. And so spotlight attachments are great to have on hand if you need to create that type of effect. And finally, as the name implies, a spotlight is great focusing on a specific product or thing. Now, while spotlights are usually very useful, they do have one big downside, and that's that they are massive. They're heavy, they have their own carrying case that's pretty large, and even the yoke is actually on the spotlight itself and not on the light, because the light is so much lighter than the spotlight, you just hang it off the back, which works really well for something like a Zhiyun G300 or G200. Now, that has limited the usability of a spotlight mount for me personally, because I travel a lot for work, and I'm just not going to take a very large spotlight mount for the times that I actually need it in documentary filmmaking specifically. But luckily, my favorite light manufacturer, Zhiyun, has rectified that with this tiny spotlight mount for their X100 series. So let's talk about what makes this spotlight attachment so much more useful than some of the competitors. So if you've been looking for a spotlight mount before the last couple weeks, then you probably saw something like this. This is the Godox spotlight mount, and Aputure has one that is very similar in size and weight and functionality. So those are probably the two most popular now for creators like us. This thing is humongous. The whole spotlight is all the way from here to here, and then we have the little Zhiyun G300 attached to the back via a Bowens mount. Very difficult to travel with, and honestly, very heavy as well. So it is robust, it's made great, but I would never actually take this on very many of my shoots because of how heavy and cumbersome it is. But it does create a lot of the great effects we've been talking about. So it's a bummer to leave it at home when I do have to travel for work. Enter the new Zhiyun spotlight attachment. As you can see, this Zhiyun spotlight attachment is tiny compared to some of the larger models. Now, of course, this is sort of an all-metal build, very robust, and if you're a grip or a gaffer with a 2-ton truck, then maybe you want one of these. But if you're like me and you do travel documentary work, a lot of 1, 2, 3-man band type stuff, then having something this small and this portable is going to be way more useful because you'll actually have it on you most of the time. The most important thing is whether this spotlight attachment can have this similar functionality to something this large and robust. That's where we're going to put these two head to head right now and see. So when I first saw this spotlight attachment, I thought there's no way it can fill as much of a space with the actual light beam as this one, which is a 36-degree beam angle. And obviously you can get different degrees of beam angles and different attachments, but 36 is one of the wider ones for a spotlight mount. But when I actually put this on the wall compared to this one, I realized they're actually pretty much exactly the same. So there's the spread of the Godox spotlight attachment at 3200 Kelvin. And as we click on the Zhiyun spotlight attachment, you can see that the circle covers the same amount of space. So when you put it in a gobo or slide into the Godox mount, it just slides straight in. And so you gotta make sure that whatever gobo you are using is at a right angle and straight up and down, otherwise your effect will be crooked. So as you can see, it's a little crooked, and so I'd have to pull this back out, straighten the gobo a little bit, and then slide it back in. Whereas the nice thing is with these tiny little gobos is you can slide them in, but when you do, you actually have a little play inside of the slide itself. And so if you're a little off in terms of your right angles, then you can just move it around real nicely until you have the angle that you want. And finally, another great advantage of the small Zhiyun spotlight is the way you focus it. So if you wanted to create harsher lines on your shadows, then you can just twist this front knob back and forth until you have the desired effect that you want. Whereas if you want to do that on a larger spotlight mount, you're actually unscrewing and moving this entire element forwards and backwards, which works just fine, but obviously is a little bit more cumbersome to actually get the lines and desired shadow detail that you want. So there you go, the lighting accessory that I didn't know I needed until I tried it out and fell in love with it. It's the spotlight attachment, and then this one, particularly from Zhiyun, is going to be incredibly useful because I travel a lot for work, and therefore having something I can actually take with me means I will. So what do you think? Have you ever used a spotlight attachment? And if so, what do you use it for? Let me know in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next video.